film took on a life of its own. I mean, Robert did such an interesting job with that movie, and it was successful at the time, but it's become so much more of a cult classic since.
Where we're going, we don't need roads.
Mr. Hartnett, always an honor to see you, sir. Thank you for taking the time. I appreciate you.
Good to see you, Jake.
I'm doing so well. I got so many questions for you.
Okay.
It's interesting. I feel like one of sort of the hurdles that Lucas faces is that obviously he's not the only killer on the plane, looking for this target. I'd love to compare that to earlier in your career, to the experience you had auditioning for parts. You're walking into a room full of people who had the same goal as you, and it's kind of made the best man win. I was sort of curious if there was one role that felt comparable to the fight on the plane, this intense sort of fight to be the winner.
Jake, I was so lucky early in my career that my audition process was really truncated. Like I was doing, I moved out to LA. I went out for a couple of months and took a bunch of auditions, and within 2 weeks, I landed my first role, and that led to another role, and then that led to another role, and I got incredibly lucky. So my experience of going in and like seeing all the other guys and like trying to one up them, it only lasted a short period of time. And the one that I got that really changed everything was The Faculty. That was the first movie I got. And the reason I got that, if you ask Robert Rodriguez, was because I didn't know my lines, because I didn't know what I was doing. He thought there was something about me that felt very Zeke. I was just too cool to actually figure it out. But really, honestly, I don't know why I didn't work very hard at that audition, but it got me the gig. So in a way, that's a direct corollary to Lucas. He's not there. My character is not there thinking he's going to be wrecking shop. He just has to kind of deal with the situation as it comes. And I don't think he's very well prepared. So there we go, full circle.
There's a good life lesson in there somewhere, where I was going to bring this up later, but since you brought it up, I was there opening night for The Faculty, man. I'm such a massive, you breaking off the paper cutter, I always thought was one of the coolest shots, the screws flying in slow motion. They've recently announced that they're going to do a reboot of The Faculty. I just love to know, one, if you just have a favorite memory on the set of that, and your thought is what it's like to have a career great enough that your early stuff is now getting the reboot treatment.
Man, it's not about me. That film took on a life of its own. I mean, Robert did such an interesting job with that movie, and it was successful at the time, but it's become so much more of a cult classic since. I'm really curious to see what they do with the sequel. I have so many great memories from it because, like I said, it was my first film that I was hired for. I did that and Halloween H2O simultaneously, essentially. But it was the first time I was working with other people my age and just sort of like out there in Austin, Texas, Robert basically saying that we could do whatever we wanted because he was so kind of hands-on and he was so do-it-yourself as a director, that it felt there was a sense of freedom on that set that you don't get very often. I didn't recognize that because I was brand new to the craft, but like it was definitely a lot of fun all the way through.
Well, it still translates very well. I'm going to loop back around to this. In the spirit of unique plane experiences, one of my favorite interviews, I didn't do it, unfortunately, but Anthony Hopkins told a great story about boarding a plane right after Silence of the Lambs. And there was a woman who was so terrified when she saw she was sitting next to him and kind of didn't want to. And I'm sort of curious, how have your plane experiences been affected at all by any of the roles you've played? And can you tell when you sit down on a plane if the person sitting next to you knows who you are?
Yeah, you can tell. You can tell when people take a little glance. I've been doing this for 30 years almost now, and I've been, in the public eye for most of it. So I have a pretty good sense of when somebody's watching me, even out of the corner of their eye. But usually people are super polite, super respectful, especially on a plane when you're going to be next to somebody for a long time. They might have a few questions, and I don't know if anybody's been scared of me necessarily, but maybe it is now since Trap came out. Maybe people have a little doubt. But the other thing is, like, Anthony Hopkins was introduced to world audiences in that movie. He'd done a lot of stuff, but that was like his big breakout. I was lucky enough to do other things that broke out before Trap, so people know I'm not him.
Would you say if someone sits next to you on a plane, 3 questions and then silence?
People aren't, they generally don't even ask 3 questions. It's just like, they say something complimentary, which is really nice, or they say something they don't like unintentionally, and then you just kind of, smile and nod. And then generally people go back to what they're doing, and then maybe at the end they give you a little nod. or ask for a picture or something.
Fair enough. Mr. Hartnett, you have been such a massive part of the reason that I love movies, man. I'm so happy that I have the opportunity to now be able to tell you and geek out with you and just say thank you for always being so kind to me. And thank you for everything you've given us, man, over those 30 years. I really do appreciate you.
Oh, that's super kind, Jake. Thanks.
Good to see you, buddy.
Yeah, good to see you too. Have a good one.
Where we're going, we don't need roads.